Hello, and welcome to Claude Cowork. This course picks up right where the chat course left off. By now, you've seen how Claude Chat is much more than just a chatbot. It can create real deliverables, work with your connected tools, and follow complex instructions. But you're still the one driving the process. You decide what to ask for next, you review each output, and figure out what the next step should be. So, when the work has 10 steps, you're managing them one at a time. And it still lives in its own environment. Sure, it can reach out to other tools with connectors, but it doesn't live alongside your work. You're uploading and downloading, or opening something on your computer and copying and pasting back and forth. Cowork changes that. Firstly, it works where your work lives, directly on your computer, with your actual files and tools. It can read, create, and edit documents, spreadsheets, or presentations that are already on your computer. So there's no copy pasting or uploading or downloading. And because Cowork can break work into smaller pieces and process files in batches, it can handle much larger tasks than chat without running into context limits or compacting your conversation as frequently. And secondly, instead of you orchestrating the process step by step, you decide on an outcome and Claude will take over. It plans the approach, breaks it into subtasks, and works through them on its own, and delivers finished work. So you go from managing every step to reviewing a final result. And Cowork's benefits go far beyond local files. Even if most of your work lives in Google Drive or Notion or in your emails, Cowork can run tasks on a schedule, use the apps on your computer, and you can even assign it work from your phone while you're away from your desk. The simplest way to think about it is that chat is for collaborating with Claude, and Cowork is for delegating to Claude, like an actual coworker. Interestingly, Cowork is actually built on the same architecture as Claude's coding agent, Claude Code. Anthropic found that their non-technical teams were bypassing the chat interface and going straight to Claude Code because they were drawn to its ability to handle complex, multi-step work. So Anthropic took that same engine and built Cowork. The same architecture, but designed for knowledge work with no coding required. So, let me show you what this actually looks like. I've got a folder here with nearly 40 meeting transcripts from the past 2 months. Stand-ups, planning sessions, design reviews, retros, and launch meetings. All sitting on my computer. I need to put together a review, which means going through all of them, pulling out every action item, tracking what got done, what got dropped, and putting together a few deliverables. Now, could I do parts of this in Claude Chat? Sure, but I'd be uploading files in batches, managing context across multiple conversations, and copying outputs into separate documents myself. The work would get done, but I'd be the one holding it all together. With Cowork, I just point it at the folder and describe what I need. Here I'll say to go through all of the meeting transcripts in this folder, pull out all of the action items and decisions, figure out who owns what, and track what got followed and what got dropped, and create a tracking spreadsheet, a summary per person, and an overall team report for the last 2 months. Now, Claude's going to go through all of the files in this folder and figure out how to approach this. Because the prompt was fairly detailed, it's gone straight into building a plan. But if I was less specific, Cowork might come back with a few follow-up questions first to make sure it gets things right. Then, when it has enough to go on, it'll just go and get to work. You can see the tasks it's created for itself, and it's working through them one by one. It's also reading the transcripts in parallel, with dozens of agents running at a time. And it's loaded the skills it needs for this job, chaining together multiple skills in one task. For every output it creates, it's going through and validating the results before moving on to the next step. And here's another great example of what I've used Cowork for recently. A lot of my video footage on this hard drive, around 900 gigabytes, had ended up all over the place. Really messy. I asked Cowork to come up with a best-in-class file naming convention and folder structure based on all of the content, draft a plan, and then, after a bit of back and forth, I confirmed everything. And Cowork went and automatically cleaned up my entire hard drive. Now, because Cowork is doing this kind of heavy lifting, it does use more of your usage allowance than a regular chat conversation. It's reading more files, running more complex tasks, and sometimes spinning up multiple agents working in parallel. It's not something to stress about. This is worth keeping in mind, especially when you're running longer tasks or working with large sets of files. Throughout this course, we'll start by getting you set up and running on your first task so you can see the full loop in action. From there, we'll get into creating professional files and documents directly in your folder. Then setting up projects and memory so Cowork gets sharper the more you use it. We'll cover skills and plugins for repeatable workflows, connectors for working across your tools, and scheduled tasks for automating work on a recurring cadence. And we'll look at Dispatch, which lets you assign tasks from your phone while your desktop does the work. By the end, you'll have a full system for delegating real work to Claude Cowork. Let's get started.